Hey there, everyone. This is Kathy Mazak, academic women's writing coach, full professor, mom of three, coming to you live before bedtime at my house, so I can't be responsible for any interruptions that are going to be happening here, with a question that came from our Facebook group from Emily, but it's a question that people have all the time. So I wanted to specifically I'm going to read Emily's question if I have it here, and then I'm going to answer it at the best that I can. So Emily asks, asking for advice. Hello all, I'm turning my dissertation into a book manuscript. What suggestions do you have for changing up the language to be less dissertation-y? I've been making many changes to it, but I'd love to hear from others who have done this, or what other suggestions you might have. Thanks in advance. So I'm going to speak to actually the dissertation-y language, but also the structure of the dissertation, how it's different than a book, and my kind of tips and what I usually advise people to do when they're going from dissertation to book. So let's start out with just, first of all, if you are watching me inside of the I Should Be Writing Facebook group, I can't see your comments. So if you want to comment and ask questions, you need to click through to my actual Facebook page, and then I can see the comments. If you're watching later, you can go ahead and tag me in comments, and I will try the best that I can to answer your questions. So first, I just want to say that this is a question that so many people have, and it is really a question that many pre-tenure women are facing because we work so hard on our dissertation. That's our magnum opus up until for the first half or the pre-tenure part of our career. Once we get that tenure track job, the focus for those of us who are in book fields immediately kind of moves to, okay, I got to get the dissertation out in publications. And so it depends on what field you're in, whether you're going to try to break the dissertation into various articles, and the number of articles that come out of the dissertation just varies a lot. It's not always that one chapter equals one article. And Emily, if you're watching, look what my daughter's playing with. It's not a Barbie, but she is. Emily's research has to do with Barbies. Okay. Go ask your sister for help. Okay. So it depends on how many, so there might be different, please somebody take this baby away, Mariana. So anyway, or you might be looking, instead of articles, you might be looking to do a book. You might be looking to do both, which is also common and is so field specific in terms of how you put out kind of overlapping publications with the dissertation as a book and dissertation as article. Oh yes, Emily, I can see you're commenting. So yay, hi. So in terms of sounding dissertation-y, I'm going to talk a little bit about why the dissertation sounds dissertation-y, okay? So the dissertation sounds dissertation-y because the rhetorical purpose of the dissertation is really different than the rhetorical purpose of a book, okay? And a couple of things about the dissertation that are really important. You only write one dissertation, and the people who read it are your committee. So the rhetorical purpose of the dissertation is for you to graduate, okay? So that's kind of like the big purpose, but, the rhetorical purpose of the dissertation is for you to show your committee members that you are ready to be an independent scholar. So what that means for your actual dissertation work is usually it means that the literature review is a little bloated. Okay, so it's probably like a little bit over the top, because what you're doing in that literature review is showing people that you can wield your field, right? I mean, that is part of, the purpose of the dissertation. Here, Mariana, you can give her this phone and put anything on it, but I need her to leave me alone. Okay. So because of that, the dissertation often feels like it has this like behemoth-y lit review on the front, and then it has your chapters and, whatever else. And that does not directly translate into a book, because the rhetorical purpose of a book is not, to impress your committee. The rhetorical purpose of a book is to make a contribution to your field. So, make a statement about something. So what you need to be able to do is, whereas in the dissertation, you might not have been able to, so now I'm supposed to be changing the diaper. Parents, other parents in the room, Poppy? Okay. The book needs to have like a big idea, and it can't be too big of an idea, right? Remember, the dissertation, the big idea of the dissertation, is incorporating like all the different ideas that your committee wants you to put in there, right? The book really needs to be sleeker than the dissertation. It needs to be more focused, and it needs to have an argument and a narrative arc that is very clear and that goes through the book. Okay? So it doesn't, it can't, because of how dissertations are, they often end up with a lot more in them, in terms especially of lit review, than you would necessarily put into a book. So what I want you to do when you're thinking about, dissertation versus book, and what the book is going to be about compared to the dissertation, is I want you to try to capture in one sentence what the book is about. Okay? So I want you to really try to think, okay, here you go, honey. Give it to Mariana. She'll help you. What the book is about in one or two sentences, okay? And those, once you've kind of done that for yourself, those one or two sentences should be like what you expect your book to be cited for. And so it can't be like, I did this work and it had this part over here and this other part over here, but it all fit together because I did it in the same time period, which is what dissertations end up being like a lot of the time. So you really need to think about that. Okay. So here's some ways that you can think about it. So I've been reading a book that's called Thinking Like Your Editor, and it's not right next to me right now. That's why I'm looking around, because I want to kind of pull it out, but it's called Thinking Like Your Editor. And it's for writers of nonfiction books. And they address academic audiences as well. And they talk about, okay, if you write the book like this, it would be for an academic press. But if you write it like this, it could be a trade press. Regardless, I think it really helps to guide you in your kind of in the proposal writing phase. So some questions that you could ask yourself about your book, okay, not your dissertation, about your book. What is the thesis of your book? What is the big idea or the argument? If you don't know what that is, then what is the big question that you're trying to answer? Okay, why are you the person to write this book? Why is now the time to write this book? Okay, so think about those three questions and really, write about them or whatever to try to get to some answers. All right, so I'm checking my notes here. So again, what we want to do is come up with a thesis or a guiding question, and then you also want to outline for yourself like a story arc. What is the beginning of this story? When you're thinking about the beginning of the story for your dissertation, you probably had to go back further than you will for your book. Or you probably had to go more broadly into the literature than you do for your book. Okay. Courtney asks, would you recommend taking chapters of your dissertation and turning those into manuscripts instead of the entire dissertation? Courtney, absolutely. It totally depends on your field and your actual dissertation. So I'll give you an example for my dissertation. So my dissertation was an ethnographic case study of English literacy practices in a rural Puerto Rican community. Okay. That, by the way, is not, you're never going to sell a book with that. You know what I mean? It's too bland. It's not, there's no argument. I didn't tell you anything about the argument, right? And what it ended up being was, although I love my dissertation so much, it ended up being kind of like the chapters lend themselves better to being turned into standalone articles than being turned into a book. So in the end, what I actually had, when I really give like an objective look at my dissertation, I didn't have, like, I had two really solid chapters, and the other chapters were good, but they weren't like book level good. And so they were dissertation level good. So what I did was I took the two strongest chapters and I made them into journal articles, and that's all I did with it. And I got them published in really nice journals, and the rest of the dissertation is sitting there, and I love it, but it's over. I've moved on to other things. So, Courtney, it totally depends. I'm in education and language, so articles are great for us. We're not a book field, so like history is a book field, English is a book field, literature. Those are book fields. Different kinds of literatures are book fields. So it depends on what your tenure requirements are. Whether you think you're gonna need one book pre-tenure. This is what happens a lot of times on the tenure track, right? You want your dissertation into a book, and then by the time you go up, you want kind of like maybe to have the second book proposal approved with a press for book fields. Okay, that's not for everybody, just for people who are in book fields. So that's a great question, and it's so specific to you that I can't give you a definitive answer, but what I did was two nice articles off of my dissertation. So a couple of other things to think about. In terms of process, here's what I don't recommend. Okay, so I don't recommend you taking your dissertation and doing like a save as, and like, here's my book, and then working from that document to revise. And the reason is because I think structurally, the book needs to be really different from the dissertation for most people. So I think it's easier to make structural changes by starting a new blank document and writing pretty much like the intro and an outline, and then pulling the content of the dissertation into that new outline, rather than staring at a giant lit review intro thing and trying to cut it back. I think that most people will benefit more writing a new intro and a new conclusion rather than editing their dissertation intro and conclusion. And again, rhetorical purpose, right? The intro is proving that you know, in the dissertation, it's proving that you know your field, and the conclusion is graduating you, right? But a book is not doing that, right? So you got to figure out what your book is doing, and you got to make sure that that's clear from the intro. It continues in a narrative arc through the whole book, and it's driven home hard in the conclusion. So that is a different structural thing. Now, how are you going to figure out how you're going to make your book structure? So there's lots of different ways. And my favorite, Emily, great. I'm so glad it's helpful. So my favorite way to look at structure is to look at an example. So find a book that you love that is in your field of study. Even better if it's with a press that you are going to target, right? So really look hard at a book that you just love, that you're like, oh, this reads well, it makes sense, the argument is like really clear throughout, whatever your criteria are, and read that book. And as you're reading it, you got your notebook by your side and you're outlining the book. And then you use that outline that you made. This is called reverse outlining. There's other things that I call it reverse outlining. That outline that you made from your model book, the book that you really love, can then be adapted into an outline for your book. So the thing is that these things that I'm telling you are going to make your book so much more publishable than if you just kind of like polish up the dissertation and send it out, right? You're really going to up level a lot by by keeping in mind these things. The book is a different rhetorical purpose than the dissertation. Let's make sure that the rhetorical purpose is clear. The book is a different structure than a dissertation. Let's figure out what the structure is. What's my message? Why am I the person to tell it? And those are notes for, and why do we want to tell it now? Why is this a story that people want to read now? And by story, I mean, the story of your book, the story that your book is telling. So keep all of those things in mind as you're creating your book project. Yes. So in terms of, how the question just came up, how to publish a book. So then what you want to do is, or actually before you completely revise your book, do not, okay, so let me say this. Don't finish your revisions and have an entire manuscript and then go looking for publishers. Do not do that. You need to look for publishers first. And you need to write a proposal first. So the things that I just mentioned that you should do, you should begin to do them. So you should have basically what you can do is redo your, figure out your new outline, your purpose, your why me, your why now. And with that, you can start to work on an actual book proposal. So what you want to do is you want to find, you want to, again, in your field, and it's very different, what university press is, going to be your target in your field. And you want to come up with, 2-3 presses. Ideally, you would have your book big idea and your outline and all of that kind of in your back pocket and ready to go. And then you would go to a conference and you would meet an editor. Okay, so the best way to do this is that, just plan to have all of those things ready for whatever your big conference is. So Emily, I don't know if you go to MLA or if you go to 4Cs or what your big conference is. But what we did for the edited volumes that I've done is we went to AERA, which was the big education conference. And before the conference, we reached out to an editor at our top choice press. We knew he was going to be there, and we made arrangements to stop by his booth and talk to him about the book. I'm almost done. Okay, I'm almost done. Mariana can help you. Okay. So anyway, you take those things and then you start, kind of shopping your idea around to different presses and getting feedback, because you're going to get feedback, you're going to get feedback on the proposal, which will include which will probably include a sample chapter as well as an outline and everything. But you're going to get feedback on your proposal, and then you're also going to get feedback on your actual book, right? They're going to send that out to reviewers as well. So that's just a high level of the process. Courtney says, thank you. As a mom of 3 and an academic, I'm grateful for you. Oh, thank you, Courtney. Emily says, if we're under contract, yay, can we change the chapter outlines, titles, title of the book, etc.? As I've been looking at a mentor text from my press, I've been rethinking some of the titles and order the chapters. Yes, you absolutely can. And I think that it's almost expected that your idea is going to get refined. Now, that doesn't mean that you're just going to turn in something else, right, Emily? You're going to say to your editor, hey, I'm thinking about these changes, or this is the new direction, or this would be the new preferred title, or here's a revised outline. But yeah, you can make changes in the process of developing the book. And books take so long that it's kind of expected that some things are going to change. That's totally okay. So hit me with your other questions, as we're talking here. Just a couple of other things that I want to say to people writing books. If you have any opportunity to apply for a little bit of funding, or even if you can't get your own funding for this, I really think it's 100% worth it to have between $500 or so nearby to pay an editor. And there's two types of editors, a developmental editor and a copy editor. And I'm just going to say that if at all possible for yourself, like, you're going to want to pay a copy editor by the time you get to the end of the book, because you are going to be tired of reading the book and you're going to want to have it professionally copy edited. Presses used to do this at like a much better, level, and they just don't anymore. So you want to make sure that what you're turning in and what you're publishing is free of errors. So even though they're also going to edit it, like copy edit it, you're going to be better if if you have your own, if you pay a copy editor to do that work for you. Alternatively, you could pay a graduate student or someone, to really carefully check all the references, make sure everything that's, referenced in the book is in the source list, and vice versa, to index the book. That's another thing that you're going to end up doing yourself, and it's going to be painful unless you can find, like a grad student to pay to do that, or an editor. There's people who index books for a living. So, and when I was a grad student, I indexed a professor's book as part of a TA-ship or an RA-ship. So, I just want you to feel and know that most people who write books work with a developmental editor and an indexer and a copy editor, and that a lot of times they pay for those things out of their pockets. So I just want you to kind of be prepared for that. You don't have to do that at all. But if your university offers any kinds of little pots of money that you could tap for paying for editing, that's something that people do. I don't want you to feel like, oh, that's cheating. It's not cheating. A developmental editor is so super helpful. It's like if you have a great advisor, what your advisor did, for your dissertation. That's what a developmental editor does. Like, make sure everything makes sense, pushes you, says this is unclear here, add this bit here, and all of that stuff. And it's not a ghostwriter, okay? It's an editor. Salila says, what is the best way to get in touch with publishers if I'm unable to travel? Just reach out by email. But what you want to make sure you do is that you're go to the publishing house's website and find a particular person. So you want to find the editor who edits the books that you love or edits the series that you want to be in. And reach out to that particular person. And you can do a pre-proposal email. Hey, I have this book, not in these words, please, but hey, I have this book idea. Would you be interested in seeing a proposal about blah, blah, blah? And you need to be really articulate, short, and clear. And then they say, yes, send the proposal. And then you send a proposal. Every publishing house is going to have the guidelines for proposals on their website. So do that in advance. Don't write to an editor and say, what are the guidelines for a proposal? No, that information is on the website. Editors are busy. You want to just reach out to an editor with a brief, clear, articulate, email that says, I have this book idea and I'm wondering if you would be interested in seeing a proposal about this. Solely asks, will I pay for publication? No, you will not usually pay for publication. Here, take this, hon.
I'll change it.
You will not normally pay for publication. You should be paid something for publication, but a lot of times you're going to break even, like with academic books. So that's the way that it is. You might get a little advance. You might get a very small amount of royalties. You're not going to make bank on academic books. A few of them will be best-selling hits in the academic world and might actually make you some money, but usually not. But you also shouldn't be paying the publisher to publish the book. They should be paying you. So Sonia says, what are your thoughts on pros and cons of publishing the dissertation as an open access book? Great question. I think, it just so much depends on your own goals and your own, the standards within your field. So part of the tenure process is looking at not just that you have a book, but that you have a book with a certain press. the better the press, the more the more likely you're gonna be to get tenure, the more mobile you're gonna be if you want to go on the market. So, you have to consider those things. The book is a currency. It's going to get you something, and so you want to think about, if you're going to do all the work of, getting the book published, do part of that work is placing it with a really good press so that it pays you, right? Not in cash, pays you in promotion and mobility in your field. Jenna says, what's a legitimate time frame for submitting a proposal after you make the first contact with an editor? That's a good question, right? Because it's like, okay, do I want to reach out without having the proposal done? Okay, so a proposal usually has some kind of format that is the proposal itself. It will often have, it's going to have a part that asks you to outline the book, and usually it will give you like a chapter by chapter, like a high level outline with a paragraph description of each one. So that will be part of the proposal. A general statement of what the audience of the book is. Competing titles, all of those things are going to be part of the book. So that takes some time, to get together. And also part of the proposal is that they'll usually ask to see a sample chapter. A lot of times they'll ask to see the intro and one other chapter. So I think it's fair, and again, you all can tell me I'm wrong, and you can definitely comment here if you've had a different experience. I will tell you my experience. My experience is that we kind of had a general book idea ready to go for an edited volume. We had reached out to some possible people, but we didn't have a proposal completely written. We went to a conference. We talked to the editor. He said, yes, we want to see it. And I would say that after the conference, maybe 6 weeks after the conference, we had a proposal in his hand, but not sample chapters. So that's what they wanted first, this particular press. They saw the proposal, and then they said, okay, we want to see sample chapters. And then probably 3 months later, we sent them sample chapters. The timeline for a book is long. So, you have some space, but you don't want to, if you reach out and say, I have this book, do you want to see a proposal? And the person says yes, you don't want to keep them hanging for 6 months. You want to be a little bit in their face, right? So you want to, get that book in their pipeline and in your pipeline, right? Okay, so we've been chatting for a while, which is very nice. And I just am going to end by saying that, and it's in the description of this video, that this is the thing about turning your dissertation into a book, or turning your dissertation into peer-reviewed publications as articles, or out there as book chapters or whatever. All of these are the core publishing decisions that we need to make as junior scholars, okay? So I have a program, we have a program called Amplify, the Faculty Writing Accelerator. And this program walks you, it really is everything I think that you need to know in order to go up for tenure with confidence. So, the reason that I do this work is because I see so many academic women suffering from stress and overwork, and from underappreciation, and from just, not that the academic life turns out to be way more stressful than I think it should be for us to be good scholars. You're welcome, Emily. Thank you for inspiring this live video. And thank you, Jenna, for saying thank you. So the program is a year-long program that brings together pre-tenure. So it's only for pre-tenure. You have a tenure track job and you're pre-tenure. It's a very specific audience for this program. Again, I love serving other audiences as well, but right now I'm developing this one. And what we do during that program is we start with a 9-week intensive where we have 9 weeks of workshops that, that explain or that teach off of my Amplify framework, which I can show you later. And then we also have this other component of this, of the core of the program, is this mastermind where what we do is we have small cohorts of 8 to 10 women who meet weekly during that first 9 weeks to do a really structured type of group coaching. And the structure is that each week 2 women sit in the hot seat and they bring their problems, their questions, like exactly this kind of question that Emily brought is a question that we could talk about in the group calls. And then you get, the feedback and the answers of this group of women who are diverse in their fields of studies. They are from different types of universities, but everybody has the same goal, which is to go up for tenure with confidence. And the way that we go up for tenure with confidence is we get our writing done. So the program is really about centering writing in your career, centering yourself in your career, and really like figuring out your own desires for your career, almost despite what your institutions are telling you. Okay, so the program starts with that 9-week intensive. It lasts for a year. Those group coaching meetings, instead of being weekly, after the first 9 weeks, they become monthly. We have an online group for support, and we also have 3 one-on-one calls. So what we would do in a one-on-one call is yes, dear.
You're sitting an owl.
Okay, I am sitting on this owl. I'm sitting on this owl. Okay, so what we could do in the one-on-one calls, and what I often do to with people, is we talk through what is your book project and what is the big idea of your book and how is it going to be different than the dissertation. I mean, that's exactly what I did in a one-on-one call about 3 weeks ago. I can walk somebody through this process that helps them get from where they are now to book idea like much faster. So that's part of the program. There's other things. If you are in a tenure track job, no matter what year, but you're pre-tenure, then I invite you to apply for the Amplify program, and you will find the application in the description of this video. We are filling cohorts for September. So we have August to fill those cohorts. We do have spaces left. So if you're interested, check it out. If you apply for the program, we get some kind of background information about you. And then at the end of that application, which is only 7 or 8 questions, it's super fast. But we'll be able to tell my team will be able to tell from that application whether Amplify is likely a good fit for you or not. After you do that application, the next screen that you get is to schedule a 10-minute call with my team. It's called a Tenure 10 call. And we schedule that call and go through your application and decide whether we think you would be a good candidate for Amplify. If we think you're a good candidate, then you schedule a 45-minute tenure strategy session with me. We really dig into all of your the things you need to work on for tenure prep. We come up with a plan for things you need to focus on. And then we talk about Amplify. And if we think it will be a good fit, then we enroll you in the program. So Soli asks, is this program for a specific academic field would be beneficial for life sciences? Yes, it would be beneficial for life sciences. That's such a good question. So in the cohort we have running now, we have people from all kinds of fields. We have history, we have cultural studies, we have linguistics, we have neuroscience. We really are in diverse fields, but that's the cool part of it. Like when we come together, everybody has similar problems. So what I do in my teaching as a writing coach is really focused on process. It's focused on process, making time to write, and career development. And so all of those things are not field specific. Okay. If you're looking for more field specific, help, that's something that we can hook you up with other people in different cohorts, or hopefully in your cohort, that would also be able to talk about science writing. But that is definitely part of this program. What we want is a diversity of different fields. So because I think that's where the richness in the program really is. So yeah, thanks for asking. So I now need a drink of water because I've been talking for too long. Thank you for listening, everyone, and have a wonderful evening. Go write your books. Bye.